Ahoy everyone, welcome to the next video in our Spiritforged Review series. In this video we're going through the body cards, and if you haven't tuned into one of these videos before, what we're doing is going through each one and I'm going to give them my initial impressions before playing them too much and give them a rating A, B or C, where A are format staples and we're going to see them in many decks. A rating of a B means that it's going to be a filler card in my opinion, and you'll see them in a couple of decks just filling up spots but not really a build around or a core centerpiece of the deck. And see if I think the video is the card is unplayable or should be pretty much disregarded, or there's something better out there to play instead. So let's get into it. The first card we have here is Buru Captain. I think that's how you say it. 3 energy, 1 power for a 3 might. When you play me, you may draw 1 or buff me. It's kind of like Clockwork Keeper-esque for the body colors. And unlike Clockwork Keeper, this cost is not optional. So you're paying the power costs up front. You get the option of whether it's a draw or a buff, but you can't decide to not pay that and just get a vanilla 3 for a 3 unit. So because of that, there's a bit of a downside with the costing and the rate on this one. It does have some flexibility in that if you're playing like against a control archetype, you can use it to draw a card, or if you're playing against some aggro type that you need an extra power point early on in the game, you can buff it and it's a decent body. But overall, I don't like the early commitment of power into a unit that doesn't do too much. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this one a B. We may see it, actually I think it's closer to a B minus or a C, but it's kind of a little bit early to tell. So we'll leave it there. Buru Captain gets a B. Okay, next is Combat Chef. 5 for a 5, Weapon Master, generic, 5 might for 5 energy. It's on rate. Weapon Master isn't particularly strong, but it is useful. I don't think that this will see too much play. I'm going to give this a B minus. It's going in my B minus bucket because really at this point in the game, which is kind of turn 2, turn 3, depending on whether you're going first or second, you want to be doing something a little bit more impactful than just playing a 5 might and passing. So because of that, it may fill starter type decks where you're looking to just play big units, but it's not impactful enough in my view. So it gets a B minus. All right, Dauntless Vanguard, 4 energy and a power for a 4 might. You may play me to an occupied enemy battlefield. I'm going to give this one a C. I don't think it's playable at all. Even if this ability was upgraded to a strictly better text of I enter ready, 4 energy and a power is still too much for that text. The fact that you can play it to an occupied enemy battlefield means you have to kind of send it in solo, and even if it enters ready in your base, like if it had that text that I just said, it would still not be worth the investment. So this one gets Dauntless Vanguard gets a C. Direwing, they're pushing the dragons in this set, which is cool to see. 7 for a 7, I enter ready if you control another dragon. If it enters ready at 7 for a 7's not a bad rate. I think it might be playable in some sort of dragon deck that revolves around like I think it's called Harness Scales or something like that, where you can get discounts on dragons. So I'm going to say this is just a fine B tier card. Playable in the dragon archetype. If you can get it out for 5 or cheaper, it's a big hitter quickly on those early turns, but doesn't do anything too special. So leave it at a B. Doran's Blade, equipment, 2 energy for 2 might and equip 1. This all the equipment is kind of pretty good value. 2 energy and a power investment for 2 might is already, it's like below rate, right? But the key to this comes with 1, the reusability, and 2, the synergies with the other kind of legends and stuff in that color. So think of like Jax and Azir and you know, those type of things. It also plays into the presidential strategy somewhat, just piling equipment up on a massive unit and asking your opponent to try and break it. Nothing special in this card. I don't think it's going to be format changing or anything, and you might find it in a couple of decks, so I'll give it a B. Next up, Laurent Bladekeeper. Oh. 3 for 3 with ganking. Ganking's quite powerful in this new format, if I'm reading it correctly, because the equipment sticks to the units and the equipment's going to be favored over other combat tricks, in my view. Loading up on this, going to one battlefield, and then keeping those buffs to go across to the other one with ganking, kind of, I think ganking gets a bit of a bonus in this set. And just wanted to make a side note of that. Overall, though, this isn't a particularly exciting card. 3 for 3 is on rate. Ganking gives it, let's say previously it was rated at like, you know, half a energy point worth of value. Now I'm saying it's probably going up to 0.75 worth of energy per value. So you're getting a better rate card with this than in the previous sets. But overall, B, again, we're going to see it in a couple of decks, but nothing special. This is our first A card of the set, I think. Punch First, 1 and 2 power for a +5 might action. This is a combat trick that essentially says on it, you win this combat. If you disregard the kind of, you know, the counter spells, like Defy can't hit this one, but you know, Wind Wall and stuff still can, and the opponent can have their own tricks and so on to try and win the combat, sure. But the key part of this is that it's 1 energy, so you can essentially tap out on your turn, leave up 1, which isn't that big of a deal, occupy or take the battlefields, and this is a massive defensive spell as well as offensive spell that is tough to get around. It's also hard to read too because of the 1 energy cost. Like it could be On Guard, it could be Defy, it could be any number of things that are sort of fit in that slot. And a big 5 might out of nowhere is massive. Also plays well with the presidential strategies. It also plays well with, I think there's a card that in orange that draws. We might get to it in a second. That draws if you spend power. Siva rewards recycling runes and so on. So all around that, you're going to see this everywhere. This is an A, a solid A. And we'll leave it there. Okay, Sea Monkey's next. 2 for 2. You may pay 1 as an additional cost to play me. When you play me, if you paid the additional cost, buff me. Now this is what I was talking about with this card previously up here, wherever it is, this Captain. This is what you want to be doing. So this is a much better card. 2 for 2 on rate. Can play it turn 1 as a 2-drop and pass. But you can also play it turn 1 on the draw or going second by playing it for 3 and giving it a buff. So it's the flexibility that fits in both the going first and going second slots that make this really strong. It isn't format warping, but I think we're going to see this as a staple in a lot of the orange decks, whether it's Yi, whether it's Siva, whether it's you know, Jax and all that. This just slots right in really nicely in that 2-drop slot and gives the flexibility that you need to get to your game plan in the later turns. So we're going to see a lot of this card. I'm going to give it an A-, and yeah, it will go down as the format evolves and as new sets come out, because there'll be better 2-drops to replace it. But at the moment, it's one of the more flexible ones, so we're going to see it for sure. Next up, Veteran Poro, 2 for 2, Weapon Master. You might see this one in the kind of Jax archetypes, Lucian archetypes, and so on. It's not as strong as the Sea Monkey, I don't think. So this will be a B+. It's solid. It's got good upside for the investment. but again, not format warping. Doesn't do much outside of being a turn 1 play. This is the little guy I was talking about, Yordle Explorer. 4 energy for a 4 might when you play a card with power cost 2 or more, draw 1. Built around this card in decks like Sivir and Jax and Lucian and so on. You can get some really good value out of this thing. Noted is the power cost of the card in the corner. It's not like additional costs and stuff that you pay by paying the additional costs in the card text. It's always the one in the top left corner. So there are only a few spells that can play it, but Punch Fist is definitely one of them. Yordle Explorer gets a B. Not going to see it in too many decks because of the slot that it's in. The 4-drop slot's highly contested, and what you want to be doing on that second turn may not fit with this game plan. But I mean, the card quality is good. It's 4 for 4 on rate with drawing ability upside. Even if you only play a handful of spells that cost 2 power or more, even just 1 or 2 of them gets you massive value off this card. So it'll just fill in the gaps where there's cards needed for that slot, and it works with the game plan. So I'll give it a B. Fey Dragon, 7 energy and a might. 7 energy and a power, sorry, for a 7 might unit. When you play me, buff up to 4 friendly units. It's the grown-up version of Kinku Monk. What can I say about this? It doesn't have the downside of Kinku Monk where you can't buff itself. So this one can buff itself, which is quite cool. So at a minimum, it is a 7 and a power for an 8, which is about at rate, slightly below rate. You really want to get a couple of buffs off this onto other units. Interesting end game closer. It's not overly powerful, but I think people are going to experiment with this in the early days, and then I think we'll find better cards than this to play with. But you might see it pop up every now and then. So I'm going to give it a B-. Just leave it there. Next up, Hex Drinker. 2 for a 1 might with deflect equipment. As I've said before, I think the deflect is derated. While ganking's gone up in my view, deflect has gone down. So it was already rated at something like half an energy point for the deflect ability. Now I'm giving it kind of 0.3 or 0.25, purely because the way I see the combat's panning out, it's going to be more equipment focused and offensive trick focus than removal type spells like the Falling Star, Void Seeker, X-Ray. Those kind of things are kind of going to go down because the units are going to be so much bigger, and because of that the deflect loses value. There are going to be times where this is really powerful, like against control decks like Ezreal, where they target you with lots of little cheap spells to remove you and draw cards and stuff off it, but it's kind of niche and it might be relegated to kind of a sideboard equipment. This might be a sideboard equipment for something like Azir. I'm going to give this, it's almost unplayable except for out of the sideboard, so I'm going to give it a C+, B-. We'll stay with C+. I really need to make a call on this, and I think it's not going to be playable. Jawlfish, 7 and 2 power for a 6 might. Accelerate, and it costs 2 less for each of your mighty units. If you can stick a few mighty units on your board, this becomes an amazing closer. The fact that it accelerates over the top of this cost, though, is a bit steep. So you're looking at 8 and 3 power for a 6 might accelerate. But if you can get it for, I would say, if you've got 2 mighty units, it will become a 4 and 3 energy for a 6. Now, even that's still not really at rate. So I don't want to be paying 4 and 3 power for a 6 might accelerate. That just doesn't do it for me. So, and the precondition of having mighty units is too much of a stretch. So I'm going to give this a trash C, solid C. This might come back to bite me if someone finds a way to abuse this, especially if you can make a few mighty units in a turn with some tricks or you know, pump spells and stuff, and then cheat this out for really, really cheap. Maybe it fits in Sivir archetype with all the recycles and gold and stuff. Not sure, but to me it looks fairly unplayable off the bat. Next up, Petrosite Monument. Friendly units have deflect and it has temporary. Am I reading this correctly? Because this looks horrible. You can play it, give all of your units deflect, and then next turn it just kills itself. Okay. C-. I don't think I'd ever play this. Even if it gives 2-3 units deflect for the investment and then the card, and you can't play it at reaction speed or anything like that, it's just play it on your turn. I'm not sure about this. I don't know what the designers had in mind for this card, but I don't think it goes anywhere near any decks at the moment. It could be the design could be some sort of multiplayer thing. I don't know, but giving your teammate deflect on their turn or protecting their stuff, I don't know what they're thinking, but nope, no thank you. Next up, we've got the infamous camel. I've mentioned this in some of the other videos. This is the build around for a lot of the early prototype decks that are out there. 6 energy for a 5 might. Already overcosted for what you're getting, but the ability is just massive. I can't be chosen by any enemy spells and abilities. This means that if you chuck things on it like a bunch of equipment, or you know, even like things like Trinity Force and stuff to milk extra points out of it, it becomes a real pain to deal with. The build rounds for this are things like Jax, MF, Master Yi, archetypes where you just protect it with things like Punch Fist and cool equipment that give you extra points, and it becomes a pain in the butt for the opponent to deal with. Can't foff it, can't rebuke it, can't you know, destroy it using any of the kind of targeted removal. Basically the only way to get over this is in combat, and when you're up against Punch Fist and Defies and On Guards and all of that kind of nonsense. Yeah, good luck. Give this a go if you haven't played with it already. We're going to see it a lot in the early games, early days of the format. I think we're going to give this an A, just because of its prevalence and because of how unique and powerful its effect is. If you come from like a Magic background, this is kind of like Hexproof, which is very, very, very strong mechanic, and I think we're going to see the same sort of thing in this game. Next up, Show of Strength. 2 energy, 1 power. Reaction, draw 1 for each of your mighty units. I don't like conditional things like this, purely because the going rate for this is 2+ a power. I want to be netting kind of 2 to 3 cards at least, and there are situations where this is going to be in your hand and you do not have 2 to 3 mighty units. I think the design philosophy around this was for something like Lucian. Because it's reaction, you can go in and all of your units get assault and become bigger and so on in combat, and then you can play this to draw a bunch of cards. But even in that archetype, you're only getting it off one battlefield's worth of combat. Like, you can't do it for all of your units, and so yeah, it's just too narrow. I think getting out 4 mighty units, 3 even's a bit of a stretch. Yeah, doesn't pay back well enough for me at the moment. So I'm going to give this a C. I'm going to be more decisive with my A, B, and C ratings. I'm going to just pick A, B, or C rather than B- all the time. Okay, strike down. Choose an equipped friendly unit. It deals damage equal to its might to an enemy unit. Then detach an equipment from it. This is challenge-esque type card. It's one way, so the opponent's unit doesn't deal damage back to yours. It has to have an equipment on it, which narrows its scope. It's not any sort of combat trick, so it's not action or reaction. So it's kind of slow speed, but it does do some damage. Like it does do some work. Being able to strike down a backline unit is huge as well. It doesn't have the battlefield limitation. So strike down a backline unit and then no damage on your unit and can reattach and go in is quite strong. I think challenge is still better just because of its slightly reduced cost and slightly reduced limitations on having to have an equipment, but it's only one energy more, and it does have some upside. So I think it's slightly worse than challenge. Challenge we see in some decks. I'm going to give this a B. Next up, Warmogs, 1 for 1. Might equipment, equip 1. When I conquer, buff me. This is often a one energy equip for 2 might with the conquer buff. So fits in decks like Lucian and the other equipment things like Azir and so on. Sorry, Azir's yellow. Why do I keep mixing that up? But good value. Definitely going to see some play. Out of the 1-drop equipments, I think this is one of the better ones. I'm going to give this a B+. Akshan. Now, Akshan's a sneaky card. 4 for a 4 on rate. Weapon Master. Yes, please. You may pay 2 as an additional cost to play me, and you can steal enemy gear. So, yes, the dream scenario is stealing a Aurora or something like that, but most of the time you're just going to get you know, Warmogs, a Seal, a you know, you might even get lucky and snag a Triforce or something like that. But it's all upside, right? It's optional, the optional cost, so you don't need to steal it unless there's something of value there. So I think this is going to see a lot of play just due to its flexibility and rate. And if you've ever had your equipment stolen from someone using Akshan, you know it's pretty miserable. So yeah, I'm going to give this an A. I think this is a really, really cool card, cool mechanic, cool flavor, and it's miserable to play against. So just looking at it from the other side, I'm going to give it an A. Fiora's next, 3 and a power for 3 might. When I attack or defend 1/1, double my might. This doesn't do it for me. It's not too bad. The effect is, again, it's a unique thing that no other unit has. Attack and defense, double might, but the fact that it has to be 1/1 is the limiting factor here. Opponent can easily choose to go in with 2 and doesn't do anything. You put two units on a battlefield and just nullifies Fiora's ability. The opponent's got a lot of control over how much value you get from this, which I don't like. And the fact that it's 3 and a power means you can't just play it for cheap, again, like as a 3-drop on curve. I'd rather a 3-drop on curve with no ability, or something else that's like not as all in than this text here. So let's give Fiora a C. I don't think she's going to see much play. I think there's going to be some people that try and build around her, but I just don't see it coming off. So let's give it a C. Alt art for Fiora. Next up, Here to Help. Early days on this card. 2 energy, 1 power for a hidden action. You may play a unit from your hand to a battlefield you control, reducing its cost by 3. This gives any of the units in your hand reaction if it's played from hidden. and you can play some massive units to battlefields to blow out combats and so on. The initial kind of combos that were floated with this include things like Bryn here, which allows you to play Bryn here on your opponent's turn. On the first thing that they do, or the first ability that goes on the chain on their turn, you just react with this. Slam a Bryn here, and say you can't play anything or do anything this turn. It's kind of gimmicky. It can be powerful, but it's a little bit difficult to set up and requires you to kind of build around it somewhat. The discount that it gives isn't that big either. So if you hide it for a power, you still have to pay, 3. You still have to hold 3 up on their turn to slam a Bryn here using this, and you've just played 2 cards for it to get it at reaction speed. And whether or not that's good value or not, it's whether or not you can time it to end the game. And if you're playing it in a spot where you're going to end the game, you might be pretty well in front already. So it seems to me that it's a little bit of a win more card. I think it will make some decks though, and I think there will be some people that find out how to abuse this a little bit more than just a Bryn here. So I'm going to give it a B-. I really want to put it in a kind of C category, but I'm not sure. I'm not confident enough that someone won't break this, let's say. So I think there might be someone that breaks it eventually. B-4 here to help. Kato, the arm, 4 power, 4 energy, 1 power for a 3 might. Way under rate. What do we got? Deflect. When I move to a battlefield, give a friendly unit my keywords and might equal to my might this turn. So how do we abuse this? So if we move to a battlefield, let's say we're going in for a combat, we can give a unit +3 and the keywords of deflect. I'm not sure if it's just keywords or if it's full text. I think it's just keywords, and that would just mean that it's just the deflect. So if you had it equipped with a bunch of stuff, it would also get that. Not sure. This looks like a combo piece to me. Like if you can figure out a way to move it. It doesn't work if it doesn't give your other unit the same thing. I was thinking like you could move a unit into a battlefield, give another unit this whole text box, and then they move, and their might's already bigger, and so it doubles and doubles and doubles and doubles and just makes something huge. But I don't think it works that way. I think it might just be the keywords. If it does work that way, it's still not great. It's still kind of requires a big build around for it. So I'm going to give this a C. I don't think we're going to see much play of Kato the Arm. Not while this sets out, at least. Maybe in the next one. All right, Lucian. 3 for a 3. I like to see it. That's the on-rate card for me. Weapon Master, yes please. And an additional upside when the first time I conquer each turn. Ready me. Don't know what else to say. This is awesome. All upside, no downside. Also champion unit for Lucian archetype. So straight out of the champ zone, going second on turn 1. And being able to move in, conquer a battlefield, and then move back out to safety is awesome. Then we've got things like First Mate and Gem Jammer, which let you go left and right across battlefields and go back in for a second conquer and so on. This is going to be a tricky card to deal with. Also, given that I think that the prevalence of things like Falling Star and Hextech Ray and stuff are going to go down, this means that this is an early turn card, like an early turn, grab a couple points really quickly, and then even if you want to bring it into the mid to late game, you'll need to equip it up with a few things and go again. But all upside for the cost, no downside. I'm going to give this an A. It's an A tier card for me. Lucian Alt Art into marching orders. 3 for an action. Choose a friendly unit anywhere, an enemy unit at a battlefield. They'll deal damage equal to their mights to each other. So this is challenge with repeat with no power cost. Interesting. Downside is the enemy unit must be at a battlefield. So challenge has backline reach where this one doesn't. Challenge being 2 is easier to keep up on your opponent's turn and only pay the power if you actually need to use it. So I think it's a little bit worse than challenge in that respect, but this one does have repeat, so you can do it multiple times. I think I'd probably prefer to keep challenge in the deck over this. I think this is strictly worse unless there's some way to kind of abuse the repeat. I think the other thing with this, and I'm not sure how this works, but I think you can play it and repeat on the same unit on your side. So you could pick a 6 might unit on yours for the first one and a 6 might enemy unit, and then the same 6 might unit of yours and a different enemy unit, and it will still deal it's 6 might to both, and so you're basically killing 2 of the opponent's units for yours and this marching orders, but it does cost you 6 power, 6 energy to do that. So that might be an upside. Kind of seems a little bit narrow, and I think I just prefer to play challenge. So this gets a C for me at the moment. We're not going to see it, given that there's something else in the format that's a little bit better. All right, Trinity Force, 4 for a +2 might equip when I hold, score a point. This is the build around card for the camel decks and some of the kind of whether or not the homes in like Master Yi or Jax or MF. This is quite a strong card and quite difficult to deal with, especially if you build the whole deck around equipping this, putting a unit out of the battlefield, and then committing everything that you've got to holding that battlefield and riding it out to the end. Going to see play for sure. It's not really in my wheelhouse. I don't particularly like this type of card, but it is powerful, and we've got to give it that. So, and we're going to see it. So I think it's going to get an A- from me. Don't like the games that it kind of produces where it's like just stick and hold and just all comes down to one turn. Do you have all the might and counter spells or not? And it's kind of a little bit uninteractive and very linear game plan, but you know, what can I say? Strong card. Next up, Yone or Yone. 5 and power for a 5 might, weapon master, and when I conquer an open battlefield, deal damage equal to my might unit in a base. So under rate, under the 5 for 5. So we're paying a power for weapon master is it's a freebie, but when I conquer open battlefield, deal damage equal to my might. Is that worth a power? Could be. Not sure that this is what I want to be doing. It's a bit of a conditional kind of ability. You can't play it and start abusing it straight away. If the opponent has enemy units on the battlefield, you're not getting value out of this straight away. And they can do things to kind of play around it, right? Like they don't need to have, even if the battlefields are open, they can just not have units in their base, or they can just stack one and let you have the other one and things like that. So to be determined if this card's strong. My initial impressions is that it's not. We might see it in a few decks while people try and feel it out, but I think I'm going to give this a C. We're not going to see play. Ancient Henge, 2 energy, 1 power for a gear, and we can activate it or tap it, exhaust it as a reaction to pay any amount of energy and add that much power. Now this is like the blue one that goes the opposite way, where it turns power into energy. This one turns energy into power, which is a better what do I want to say? Better conversion ratio, better better exchange rate than the other one, and it's cheaper to play as well. So out of the two, I think this is going to see play. I don't think there's anything in the format at the moment that we want to use to abuse this, but this is for sure going to be a combo piece in future sets. So get your copies of this while they're really cheap and slept on. So at least get a play set of them, tuck them away. We got, yeah, you can, there's going to be some spells, right, that come out that are going to require significant amount of power, or power sinks, like cards where you can pay power to do a certain ability, kind of like Renata draw, you know, where you can pay it to draw a card, or pay one power, one energy to draw a card, where you can use cards like this to draw 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards a turn, sort of thing. Applications are still a big question mark, but I'm sure they'll be there in future sets. So C tier for now in terms of format playability, because there's no way to abuse it, but future set staple, I think, for combo decks. Bone Shiver is next. 3 energy for +2 might when I conquer channel 1 rune exhausted. The equip cost is a bit high on this one. Paying 3, 4 plus a power just to get 2 might and channel runes, that's not it for me. Unless you can cheat it out a little bit, like with cost reduction, things like jacks, and equipping it that way, but even then it doesn't save you very much. Yeah, don't think this one is playable either. I'm going to put this one as a C. Jacks 4 energy and a power for 3 might. Better be something good. Weapon Master. When you attach an equipment to me, you may pay 1 to draw 1. If it was when you attach an equipment to me, you may draw 1, this may be playable. Even then, it probably only just make the cut as a B tier card. But the fact that you got to pay 1 to draw 1, I mean, you're paying for your draw anyway here. So why the discounted cost? Why the massively overcosted rate on the unit? I think this one's garbage again, so I'm going to put this in a C. Next up, Siva. 6 and 3 power for a 7. Deflect 2. When I conquer after an attack, if you assign 5 or more excess damage to enemy units, you may deal that much damage to an enemy unit. So kind of like Tryndamere-esque in that instead of winning points, you get to ping another enemy unit for 5 or whatever excess damage you've dealt. Things like Power Fist and stuff. I think in the Civ decks, this power cost isn't that much of a big deal because of the amount of gold and stuff that it generates. But just looking at this, I don't know. It costs a lot for a Deflect 2 non-accelerated ability that then the opponent can go, oh, you've played a Civitar base, let me back off my units and make the combats favorable so you can't assign damage the way you want. And if they do that, then paying 6 plus 3 for a 7 with Deflect isn't super appealing for me. I mean, it may be the better card for the Civ decks to play in the champ zone, but it's, you know, you're playing it there out of necessity rather than wanting to play it. I'm going to give this a C. A few people might disagree with me on this, but just in isolation, the rate that it gives is not appealing. And the last card we've got is the Civ Alt Art. So that does it for the body cards. Cheers for watching this video. If you like or want to see more of this content, please comment down below and tell me what you want to see or what you want to hear, and or how we can make things better. And I'll catch you in the next one.